You probably think what's holding you back from getting better at sewing is what you don't know. But what if I told you that was only part of the problem? The real issue are things you don't even realize you don't know, the hidden gaps that keep you stuck, even though you feel like you're making progress. And today I'm going to uncover them. That's where the blind spot theory comes in. The blind spot theory is the idea that we all have things we overlook, that we don't even realize that they matter. When it comes to sewing, this could mean that you're spending too much time just focusing on sewing straight and not realizing that fabric prep and pressing as you go are equally or even more important in your final polished product. So let's break this down into 4 quadrants: the known knowns, the known unknowns, the unknown knowns, and the unknown unknowns. Those are the true blind spots. Let's start with the known knowns. These are things you know and that you're confident about. It could be sewing that straight stitch, or perhaps it's how to read a pattern. So it's a really great place to start. It helps your confidence, but relying on known knowns isn't going to get you very far. There's so much more to sewing. Then we move on to the known unknowns. These are the gaps that you're fully aware of. Perhaps you want to learn more about how to sew the perfect dart, or maybe you don't understand fabric types yet. The good news is these are things you can research, learn, and practice. I like to go to YouTube videos, or I have a lot of books on sewing. You can also join sewing communities and ask questions. So it's a great part of the learning journey to continue to improve your skills. I'm still improving my skills after many, many, many years of sewing, because there's always something new to learn, which makes sewing so much fun. And then we have something called unknown knowns. So these are things that you know how to do relating to sewing, but you've never consciously learned them. Something like this might be fabric. Just through maybe wearing clothes over time and shopping for clothes, you might have a really good understanding of different types of fabric, which would be vital in your sewing journey. Understanding fabrics and how they perform is so useful. So that's something that you might know a lot about, but just don't realize how useful it's going to come into your sewing journey. Now here's where things get interesting. The unknown unknowns. These are your true blind spots. The things you don't even realize are holding you back. Maybe you're not pressing your seams enough, or you're choosing the wrong fabric for a given project. You don't even realize what the problem is. The problem with blind spots, you can't fix what you don't know is broken. That's why they're so tricky. So the first phase when you're beginning your sewing journey to learn how to sew, you're in the stage called unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. So that's where we all start, right? We think we want to begin to sew, but we've never sewn before. We don't know anything about it. So we start researching, and you go online, you watch YouTube videos, you read books, and then all of a sudden you start realizing these are the skills that are important. So then all of a sudden you know what your unknowns are. And at that point, you can start improving those skills. So at that point, we're moving into the second phase then, where we're in the conscious incompetence. We know what we don't know. And can be a quite frustrating phase, because you realize there's all these skills that you need to learn and you haven't mastered them yet. So you're making a lot of mistakes. It's very frustrating, but it's really important to keep your project simple at this point. Keep your fabric choice simple at this point, so you can slowly build those skills and get through this frustrating phase, and then moving on to the more interesting third phase. And the third phase in your sewing journey is conscious competence, where you're starting to master some of these skills that you've identified that you need to learn. It's starting to get a little bit more comfortable, but you still have to think very hard about what you're doing. So it really gets to be fun at this point, because while it does take a lot of thought process to do these skills, you start seeing the end result of your final garment, and it's quite exciting. And we finally reach the phase where sewing becomes easier and like second nature. This is the phase called unconscious competence, where you just can sew easily, you know exactly which fabrics to choose, you know all the steps that you need to go through. And this is where you can really let your creativity be unleashed and really have fun. So it takes time to get through these phases, and the more practice that you do and the more research and YouTube videos you watch, the faster you'll progress through these stages. But we all have to progress through these stages. We cannot just jump to the phase 4. For any skill, you need to learn things through these stages. So I encourage you to practice and continue. It's really worth it. The beauty of sewing is that there's always something new to learn. I'm still learning every day. So let me share some of the common blind spots that I think a lot of beginners will have. First one is not prepping your fabric. So it's very important to pre-wash your fabric when it comes in, the same way that you're going to continue to care for your fabric. Another one is press as you go along. It's very, very important to press all your seams, and every step along you go back to the ironing board and press. It makes the final garment so much better. It's not the same just to press at the end, because certain seams, well, before you do another seam over them, they're so much easier to press. And I think a lot of things people are blind to is not understanding fabric behavior. I have a video that talks all about how I choose my fabric, and that is based off of these 7 characteristics. You can check out this video here. It is very important to understand fabric characteristics so you pick the correct fabric for your project. Otherwise, you're going to end your project. You'll have a garment that's uncomfortable or it doesn't wear well. And that's very frustrating after you've spent so much time and money to make the garment. So I guess the question is, how do you uncover your blind spots? I think the top thing I would do is to ask for feedback. So join sewing communities, post pictures of what you're doing, or post problems of what you may be experiencing. And there's so many experienced sewists online that can really help you. You can also ask questions in the comments on my videos as well, and I'm more than happy to help you. And you want to analyze your results. So if something seems a little off, that you're not happy with your final garment, sort of trace it back into all your steps and think, what step maybe perhaps I'm making a problem, and you can see and try to analyze from there. But I think that helps. The more experienced you are, it's easier to identify these things. So probably the first one for really beginner sewers is to ask other people is probably the best way. And I suggest being open to experimentation. Try different things. Sometimes when I was a beginner sewist, I'd be like, oh, why do I need to do that? That seems unnecessary. I'm just going to jump right over that step. And I would recommend not doing that. Follow the steps as recommended, because they're recommended for a reason, even though you may not at this point understand what that reason is. Start closing some of your blind spots by trying some of these 3 easy projects: baby bibs, fabric weights, and bookmarks. The link is in the description below. If you want to learn more about what I wish every new sewer knew, check out this video here. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below, what is your biggest blind spot?